I know 4 of the 5 pentatonic notes, so I'm better there. But no, I think the way that I learned guitar was very.
You know how to use those 4 very well, though. So that seems to work at least.
Find that 5th note. Yeah.
Yeah, think what you can do when 5 notes, not only 4. I mean, it's just like it's gonna open up a new world for you.
Like jazz.
Ciao a tutti e bentornati su Note Sparse, questa è la quarta puntata, ci ritroviamo dopo un po' di tempo, in realtà sono stato bloccato da qualcuno che aveva bisogno di priorità. Bentornati in questo video podcast di accordo.it, lo trovate disponibile anche su Spotify se volete per l'ascolto soltanto in audio. Ospite di oggi, Chris Buck. Se siete dei chitarristi e non avete deciso di tagliare i rapporti con il mondo, Chris Buck non ha bisogno di grandi presentazioni per voi. È sicuramente uno degli esempi più positivi, più belli, più interessanti e anche più motivazionali, mettiamola così, del mondo chitarristico giovane contemporaneo. Chris ha lanciato una carriera di grande successo su YouTube, l'ha poi trasformata anche in una carriera che sta prendendo il via in maniera molto positiva con una band che sono i Cardinal Black. Freschi della pubblicazione di At The Valencia, adesso invece sono praticamente in questi giorni, quando uscirà questo video, pronti per arrivare per la prima volta anche in Italia, quindi quale occasione migliore per scambiare 2 chiacchiere con Chris, che è sempre disponibilissimo e con il quale abbiamo parlato veramente di tantissime cose. We spoke when Midnight at the Valencia was about to come out, or probably was it already released? No, probably was about to be released, right?
About to be released, I think.
Yeah. And we were just, discussing and, joking around you maybe coming to play in Italy, and there you are, coming to play to Italy.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Finally.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. It's every time I've been to Italy, it's whether it's with work or holiday or whatever, it's just been amazing. Yeah. So yeah, we were particularly keen to come over and play some shows. So I think it's Livorno, Roncada, Cervia and Milan.
And Milan, 4 shows. Yeah. Are we? So let's start with that. How are you preparing for the tour? Is it rehearsal all continuously, or is it more something more?
We had 1 rehearsal yesterday. It's kind of an extension of the tour that we did around the UK and Europe in October and November. So it was essentially yesterday a case of just brushing up on the stuff that we'd kind of maybe forgotten from a couple of months back, but we've been pretty busy in that time anyway, in the sense that obviously we all flew out to NAMM for the launch of the signature Revstar.
Yeah, I'll talk about that.
So yeah, we've been together as a band pretty frequently in that time anyway. Yeah. So we weren't too rusty, thankfully, yesterday.
Of course, having this huge YouTube following that has, of course, built a separate career for yourself as well. And I wanna indulge in that a little bit more, because you recently you stepped into the world of guitar, let's say, tuition and education, right?
Yeah.
You launched a couple of projects there. So
yeah,
tell me something about that.
Honestly, that was something that I'd always been a little bit apprehensive to do.
Why? I maybe know why, but tell me why.
I don't consider myself a guitar teacher or an educator particularly. And I think any kind of brief forays I'd had into that world in the past had felt a little bit unstructured and a little bit ad hoc and a little bit kind of like I was just winging it. And I think lack of guidance, from people who knew better, was a key part of it. So I'd been a little bit apprehensive to do it again, and I was very determined that if I ever did do something like that again, it had to be of a quality and it had to be of a standard, and had to be something which I was proud of, which I don't think I know categorically I've never put my name to anything. Prior to this course, I've never put my name to any educational stuff that I felt particularly proud of. So it was, yeah, finding the right people to work with and finding the right way to kind of structure the course and make sure that it covered all of the things that I wanted to cover, was a fundamental part of that. And thankfully, I found someone. Strangely, I did a teaching week in Italy in
Really?
April of last year, I think it was.
Okay.
And met on the course, met the guy who I would go on to work with on the educational stuff. This guy called Luke Lewis from the UK. He was brought along, basically. I was the kind of the quote unquote star for the week of teaching. And Luke, being an actual guitar teacher, was brought along to essentially translate what I was saying and try and make sense of a lot of the vague terms that I use when I'm describing what I do, because I'm not trained particularly in that respect.
Right.
And me and Luke just hit it off and kind of got to know each other really well. And it just made sense then that when, the time came to put my name to a course like this, Luke was the guy that helped me structure it and helped me film it, and very much took the heavy lifting, off my plate, which was nice because I was, it was short at a time as well, just before and just after our US tour in the summer. So there was so much happening with the band, so finding someone to work with that not only understands what I do, and had quite literally written a book on me, additional product that I'd done for Lick Library, and turned it into a PDF, into a book.
Yeah.
So I was confident that he A, understood my playing, and B, was very kind of au fait with this stuff, and was happy to kind of help me out with it. So I'm very pleased with how it turned out, and it's a pretty comprehensive overview, I think, of my playing. I think there's a couple of gaps that we've left maybe to address in the future, and a couple of little kind of things we could pick up on, but for the most part it's pretty much a comprehensive look at everything that I do, for better or for worse.
Molto interessante l'approccio alla didattica, se vogliamo chiamarla così, di Chris Buck, che probabilmente non vuole insegnare troppo, ma vuole condividere parte di quello che per lui è abbastanza naturale, viene in maniera molto naturale. Succede un po' a tanti di noi, di sapere qualcosa, saperlo fare, ma poi doverlo spiegare, doverlo andare a raccontare per trasmettere quella conoscenza a qualcun altro non è la stessa, non viene perlomeno con la stessa semplicità. Ecco, quindi molto interessante l'approccio di Chris, che ovviamente prende una strada già battuta da tantissimi dei rappresentanti della chitarra elettrica su YouTube, quella della didattica, dei metodi in vendita per l'acquisto, ma lo fa in un modo sicuramente un pochino più cauto e probabilmente anche un pochino in linea con quella che è la sua figura di YouTube, che e questa è una delle cose interessanti che abbiamo discusso con Chris. Non è quella dello YouTuber canonico, non è quella di tanti content creator che siamo abituati a seguire, che ci piace seguire, è quella invece di qualcuno che a un certo punto ha deciso di mettere davanti a tutto il resto la creazione della propria musica. Non è il primo, ce ne sono altri, mi viene in mente Revstar, giusto così, giusto per fare un altro nome, però Chris è sicuramente uno di quelli che adesso sta dando molta più importanza ai Cardinal Black, e oltretutto questo non vuol dire che YouTube sparisca, non vuol dire che il pubblico di YouTube si trasferisca direttamente ai concerti per seguire i Cardinal Black, e quindi si aprono due carriere diverse. So you were saying, you said you're not trained. Let's dive into that a little bit. What does it mean? What kind of level of, how deep do you go into music theory? And now does that, let's say, reflects on the way you approach your playing, you approach now education? Is that something that you reflect on consciously, or is it something that you put aside just because that's how it is and I'll do my way anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I know 4 of the 5 pentatonic notes, so I'm better there. But no, I think the way that I learned guitar was very.
You know how to use those 4 very well, though. So that seems to work at least.
Find that 5th note. Yeah.
Yeah, think what you can do when 5 notes, not only 4. I mean, it's just like, it's going to open up a new world for you.
Like jazz. Yeah, I think the way that I learned to play guitar was quite sporadic and quite self-taught, in the sense that I had a couple of guitar lessons in school, but it was very much just a case of showing me the basics, showing the power chords, essentially. And then I was so excited that I could now play any Offspring song or any Blink-182 song. That was me. I just went off and kind of taught myself from there on. So this subsequently, there are vast gaps in my knowledge where I've just not discovered stuff, or I think the best way of putting it is that I understand most things, and you can throw me into most musical situations and I won't drown, but I won't necessarily understand why I'm not drowning. I just know that I'm not drowning, which is fine in a
It works.
In a practical application. That's fine. But when it comes to actually trying to explain what you're doing to other people, that's not very helpful. So yeah, like I said, I know a fair amount of theory, and I can apply it in ways which make sense and make sense for myself and the band. But I'm not going to be the guy to sit down and tell you about the circle of fifths or modes or theory at large. So yeah, that's why it was important to get someone along who understood that stuff, but could also then, strangely, kind of explain it back to me in a way which started to make sense. Weirdly, when we were filming the course, there were so many moments where Leek had basically kind of outlined what we were going to talk about and how he wanted me to try and explain what I was doing. There were so many moments where it was only when I was reading back this stuff that he'd given me that it started to make sense what I do and certain ways in which I approach the guitar and how I play things. I was like, oh, that's why I do that, or that's how I do that. So strangely, there were a few light bulb moments for me while doing this course that, what I do finally started to make sense to me.
Anche in altre occasioni in cui ho avuto modo di parlare con Chris, mi è sempre piaciuto discutere un pochino con lui del dualismo tra la band da una parte, Cardinal Black, che adesso stanno prendendo il via in maniera sempre più importante, e dall'altra invece il canale YouTube, che è stato per lui una fonte di lavoro molto importante fino ad adesso, non che abbia smesso, ma sicuramente ha dovuto ridimensionare anche la frequenza con cui pubblica contenuti, perché la band ha preso la precedenza. E quindi in questo ambiente così polarizzante come quello della chitarra elettrica su YouTube, dove si fa presto a restare fuori dai giochi, mi piace parlare con una persona come Chris, che invece ha deciso non di smettere assolutamente da una parte, ma di cercare di trasferire un po' quel tipo di attività su altri binari, probabilmente più selezionati, ma soprattutto di trasferire tanta di quell'energia spesa per quei contenuti in qualcosa di invece di molto più strutturato, come può essere una band che tutti i giorni deve fare i conti con i tour, con il fare musica, con fare un nuovo disco e poter sostenere quel tipo di progetto. I want to circle back to the duality of the YouTube channel and, of course, the band, because we already discussed that in the other interview. But back then, we were talking about the fact that maybe the band does now have a separate following compared to the YouTube channel following, because it's not mandatory that 200,000 people from the YouTube channel show up when you actually play a gig, right? That's usually what doesn't happen. So how is it evolving? How are the two things coming along together? And I know that last time you said you wish you could do more Friday fretworks nowadays, but the band is kind of taking over your time. So how are you balancing that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the way we've seen Cardinal Black's crowds sort of evolve and develop over the past couple of years is it's becoming more of a music crowd generally, just music fans as opposed to guitar fans or, fans of me specifically. And it's not uncommon now for, you have a chat with fans at a gig or in the pub beforehand or wherever, and them not have a clue who I am or any of the stuff that I've ever done on YouTube. They've discovered us because they've heard us on the radio, or their wife likes us, or their, whatever, however people get through the door, it doesn't matter, I guess, ultimately, as long as you get them through the door. And they enjoy enough to want to stay. So it's cool that, over the past year or two, I guess, we've seen our audience become slightly younger, I would say, more mixed gender as well. A huge percentage of crowds now tend to be women wherever we go, which is cool. And younger kids as well, which was a huge part of the development of the Revstar as well. Just to touch on that quickly, one of the reasons I wanted to make the Revstar as affordable as it could be was I'm conscious of how many kids I see at our shows who are obviously learning to play guitar. So it's cool to have seen it develop, and take on its own personality and its own life, and not just be an extension of my YouTube channel, which I think when we launched, undoubtedly was, because that was the only way that people were aware of us. But
Yeah.
you know, the more music we release and the more gigs we play and the more avenues in which people are able to discover us through, obviously that's going to diversify over time. So yeah, that's cool. That's encouraging that we seem to be just attracting more of a music fan base as opposed to the guitar nerds like myself.
I think that's what you want, because otherwise you're going to end up having a show full of people actually peeking at your pedal board. So, and you don't want that. You don't want that on the long run.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But with the YouTube stuff, I think, you know, I wish I had a little bit more time to maybe devote to doing the YouTube thing. But honestly, I think, you know, YouTube for me was always a means to an end, in the sense that it helped get eyeballs on me and it helped raise awareness of who I was.
Sure.
Which was ultimately all going to be to the end of have a listen to my music. Didn't have that music to be able to point people to, but you know, as soon as Cardinal Black launched and became very busy very quickly, you know, like I'm sure by the time this interview was out, you know, we will have announced it, but we're off on tour with Alter Bridge around Europe in June.
Yeah.
So there's so much stuff, you know, coming up, you know, and then straight, you know, while we were touring with Alter Bridge, we're going to be recording our third album. So this, you know, juggling that with also having a family and having a wife and having a little boy and all of this kind of stuff, there's just unfortunately not quite enough hours in the day. So something has to give, and for me that's been YouTube, you know, for the most part.
Yeah, sure. Era nell'aria da tempo, se l'aspettavano praticamente tutti lo sapevano, e poi è arrivata al launch show di adesso di gennaio, è stata presentata la nuova signature di Chris Buck, la Revstar, che lui usa poi da tantissimo tempo in realtà, ma questo è un modello che punta a fare qualcosa di diverso, ovvero essere un pochino più popolare, un pochino più accessibile. Stiamo sempre parlando di una chitarra che supera i 1.000 euro di spesa, ma che per quella cifra prova a restituire, a dare al chitarrista quanto più possibile, senza distaccarsi con dei compromessi così pesanti dal modello custom che lui invece utilizza da tanti anni. Let's step into the Revstar and the signature launch, because kind of the worst kept secret ever, but I mean, it was coming, right? We were just expecting it, basically.
Yeah, it had been a while in the making. I think it was first mentioned to me in about 1985. I think Yamaha first mentioned it. So it had taken a while to get to that point. But I think, you know, Yamaha is such a big company and is such a behemoth. You know, someone actually within the company described it to me recently and said Yamaha is like a very big ship, in that it can take a little while to turn, but when they turn and when it's full speed ahead, they're really motoring. And you know, I've seen that with the release of the guitar. The response has been incredible. I think the response has far exceeded anyone's expectation in terms of it being, you know, immediately sold out pretty much everywhere, and then back ordered, and you know, people clamoring and chasing up different guitar shops to try and be able to get hold of one. Which is really encouraging. You know, I think there's a lot to be said for the scarcity of something, you know, kind of creating a little bit of intrigue in demand. Hopefully that will even out in time and people will actually be able to get hold of one and go and see some in guitar stores.
I haven't, so if you have one, please hook me up with one. I'm gonna shoot my shot here, so I haven't. So
you can have mine if you want.
Very gladly so, but I won't be able to play the way you do. So.
But, no, it's been awesome. It's been really encouraging just to see it be so well received and such an enthusiastic response to it.
Yeah, I think the price point is probably one of the power keys of this launch, because, as you said, you try to make it as affordable as possible, which is something that a lot of people care about today, because we see more and more new guitars coming out just to be limited editions, and especially signatures are now, you know, very highly priced, usually very few made. This is the opposite, basically. It's just a signature for everyone, really.
Absolutely. I think there were, you know, if there has been a degree of pushback on anything, it's been the lack of nitrocellulose and just you know, the change to ebony or the change to rosewood from ebony for the fingerboard. There's been a couple of comments, you know, negatively in that respect, but you know, those were key decisions in terms of making a guitar that was affordable and was within reach of people, you know, and exactly that. You know, how many times have we seen signature models from artists where they're either limited edition and, you know, they sell out instantaneously and then they're on rehab for 10 times the price,
exactly.
or
Yeah.
or they're just unattainable, and I wanted this to be something which was just, I think, irrespective of any association with me, I think it's just a cool guitar. It's a cool spec of guitar that hopefully has the ability to transcend any association with one person.
Yeah.
So I was very, much taken with the idea that this is just a guitar which is as readily available to everyone and all.
Yeah. And I think, and forgive my play of words, but it's a lot of bang for the buck, really. You get a lot of guitar for what you pay. I mean, it's around, in euros, it's probably 1.2K, something like that, which is nowadays a very, very crowded, let's say, category of guitars.
Yeah.
But you get a lot for that.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I like to think so. I mean, I'm hopelessly biased.
Yeah.
So I've lost any degree of objectivity because obviously I have it because it's my signature model.
I mean, you shouldn't have objectivity here. It's your guitar, so why?
Absolutely. Sorry, I got the band phoning me left, right, and center. I have no idea what's happening. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. I'm very, very pleased with the way it came out, and hopefully it continues to sort of find its feet.
Yeah. Let talk us through a little bit of what you're bringing with you on tour, because I guess, it's now the 24th. You have the first European date. Is it 26th? So in 2 days, you're leaving, tomorrow, probably?
Yeah.
As we record? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Perfect.
Got
So
a long drive to Belgium tomorrow.
Yeah, Belgium. Okay. Yeah, long drive. So what are you bringing with you? What kind of gear are you touring with?
Pretty much the same rig as the last tour, really, which was
Okay.
too many amplifiers and too many guitars. No, I've tried to kind of pare it back a little bit. So we've got obviously my signature Revstar. We've got my custom shop Revstar, which is obviously been my number one for the past however many years. We've got a Gibson SG then, which is the kind of the quote unquote rock guitar for the set. Any tracks which need humbuckers, that's the guitar for that. It's a Murphy Lab 64 reissue in Pelham Blue. And
What a great color.
Jazzmaster, which is it's a beautiful guitar. I'm a bit of a sucker for blue guitars. And
don't tell me, please. It's not like I basically only, besides from my Rickenbacker, it's just blue guitars here. So
amazing, nice. And then lastly, we have a Jazzmaster, which is like a parts caster that I put together a couple of years ago. Pedal boards has not really changed much. I'm very fortunate to still be in possession of my pedal board after it was stolen while I was at home. We'll touch upon that in a second because that's a crazy story. Pedal boards thankfully still the same, and then amp wise there's a couple of different amps. There's Victory MK Clean, there's the new 62 Super from Fender, the reissue, the brown panel. There's my Super Reverb, which has kind of been the heart and lamp kind of setup, I guess, for the past couple of years, and also a 61 Concert, which has been rehoused into a 62 Super Cab for some reason by someone somewhere. So there's 4 amps on stage, which is thoroughly excessive, and I'll be the first to admit that it's as much for the aesthetic and balance of the stage and giving it a little bit of kind of gravitas as it is for the sound. I don't like to play particularly loudly on stage, to be honest, because I don't have anything in my monitor apart from my own vocal. So I'm going to be the last person would be one to drown out everyone else. So it's as much an aesthetic thing as much as it is an audio thing.
Plus, if you can, why not? I mean, it's fun. It's nice to have amps and guitars. So if you can, why not? Really?
Yeah.
So you you have a long drive to Belgium, you said. Are you driving your own van? Is it going back to, the old school driving your own van kind of thing, or is it something more elaborate now?
I mean, funnily enough, we've literally just bought a new van.
Great.
Our last van, to be fair to it, is still going strong. It's done 310,000 miles, and it's not really missed a beat as of yet. But it's given us a couple of signs that may not be the case forever, and we'll probably be in deepest, darkest Bavaria in the middle of winter when it does finally decide to give up the ghost. So we thought we would preempt that and buy a new van with the proceeds of the last tour. So it's another Mercedes Sprinter, I should say, which we've then basically converted into a crew van. So it's really
Right.
spaciously laid out inside with pretty much just seats for people and a small amount of space at the back. And then we basically rent another van, which is just for gear, essentially. So
There you go.
it's not as rock and roll as maybe a tour bus, but the reality of tour buses is that they are astronomically expensive, and you're spending upwards of £1,000 or €1,000 a day, and then you get to the end of that tour and it just goes back, and you don't have an asset, you don't have anything to show for it. So, for this little European run alone, we would have spent pretty much a comparable amount on renting a tour bus as we would done if we just bought our own van, which we have.
Yeah.
And we now have an asset, which I think, thanks to the work that we've done on it, we've increased its value anyway. So, we're fairly sensible when it comes to all that kind of stuff and fairly frugal. But like I said, maybe not the most rock and roll of modes of transport, but it serves us well, and it keeps us dry.
Una delle cose più belle del parlare con Chris è il potersi rapportare anche con un chitarrista che, malgrado la sua notorietà, fa i conti anche con una realtà che è quella di tutti i giorni, perlomeno delle band di tutti i giorni. Andare in tour, fare musica, mettere in piedi un progetto musicale che possa poi diventare un sostentamento per la vita, sappiamo tutti benissimo non è un'operazione così facile. Quanti di noi non si sono fermati proprio perché non era un'operazione più sostenibile, e quindi perché non parlarne anche con lui che è uno proprio dei diretti interessati e che può darci un feedback il più immediato e il più realistico possibile. You touched the subject that is kind of, probably you're the best example and you're the best person to talk to right now, because touring with a band nowadays, it's not always as easy as maybe it was years ago. It's never been that easy, but actually making profit from a tour, it's not as easy today as it probably was a couple of years ago, let's say, before the pandemic. What's your take on the whole, let's say, on the whole scheme of actually, trying to make it as a band as you go, as you go on tour, as you release records? Because I don't think probably you can answer that, but I don't think it's the record making the profits for the band to actually carry the tour on.
No, absolutely not.
I
think the way that we kind of look at, and this is, I think this is quite an unfortunate situation, but the way that we look at our recorded music and our recording output is essentially giving us a reason to tour and a reason to get out there and play that new music and get people through the door and come to see our shows. And I'm still a huge believer in the art form of making a record. I still love records. I still listen to records. I enjoy records as a whole. So I'm always going to take an immense amount of pride in our music and our songwriting and the albums, that we release. But it seems increasingly the case that they're not necessarily obsolete, but their importance is diminishing, I would say, which does put an unfair emphasis, I think, on the importance of touring and the importance of actually being able to be profitable when you tour. So it's all very unrock and roll and it's not very sexy, but it does come down to pounds and pence, and it comes down to very workaday mundane decisions like, do we get a tour bus, do we rent a tour bus, or do we invest in our own mode of transport? And that ethos then continues to every element of touring. So where do we stay, and how much is our budget every night? I mean, just being out on the road as a band, we run at a cost of about £1,500 to £1,600 a day on average, just in terms of actually being out of the house. And that's crew wages, that's band wages for the session musicians in the band, that's fuel, that's food, that's accommodation, that's all of these, costs associated with being out on the road. So you just have to factor that in and think, okay, so where can we make money and how can we maximize that money that we make so that we have money to be able to make another record, or we have money to be able to do another tour. So something we did in the UK in October, just gone, and is something we're going to take forward as a model into the next year and beyond, is essentially self-promoting shows. So we booked the venues ourselves and we self-promoted the shows, and rather than you taking a small cut, that the promoter decides to give you at the end of that process, you take the lion's share because you've taken on the lion's share of the risk. If nobody turns up, you don't get paid that night and you run at a monumental loss. But thankfully, I think we all know we all know how to market shows, and we're all very willing to learn and very willing to get stuck into that and learn on the job. And thankfully, it went very well, and it was our biggest tour to date. It was our most lucrative, comfortably most profitable tour to date. Which you say that and it sounds boastful. All of that money gets reinvested into the band, so it's not as though all of this money gets reinvested back into the band and helps us to continue and hopefully to thrive. Because you see bands that are, on labels or in slightly different positions to us where, they're just really struggling financially to make this work. And they may be playing to more people consistently than we are, but they're hamstrung by all of these deals and all of these situations that they're in where everyone is taking the bigger cut of the money. So, like I said, I'm always conscious that whenever I talk about this stuff, it's very businessy and it's very boring for some people.
Of course. But I mean, it's
just the reality of being in a band,
Two things before I let you go. You have to tell us the pedalboard being stolen at NAMM story. And also you mentioned early on that you're going to record your third album while on tour. So I want to know if you already know what kind of direction that this new record is gonna take on. So
so the pedalboard story is a strange one. While we were at NAMM, obviously launching my signature model, I think this was the day actually after it had come out. This happened. My wife phoned me. This would have been, kind of late morning in the UK, early hours of the morning in Los Angeles. And she phoned me saying, whatever was in the boot of your car is now no longer in the boot of your car, and your rear window is missing. So, like an idiot, and I will accept a huge proportion of this blame because it's a wrong move to leave anything in your car at the best of times, never mind when you've gone away. But in my defense, I'd been recording a video very late the night before I left. It was actually been recording the launch video for the Revstar that went on my YouTube channel. I hadn't finished recording that until like 10 p.m. the day before, and I'd just forgotten what was where. And my pedalboard, along with a couple of bits and pieces, were left in the boot of my car. And someone decided to help themselves to it while I was in Los Angeles. So unfortunately, there's a couple of things which have just disappeared into the ether. So there's
sorry about that.
C'est la vie. It's a couple of pelly cases, like road cases, basically. A small pedalboards, which was the pedalboard that sits behind my amp to basically split the amps. There was, what else was there? There was a brand new Schmidt Array pedalboard, which was going to be the new pedalboard for this tour. And I was going to move everything over to the new pedalboard when I got home, but obviously that wasn't the case anymore. And then, most importantly, my actual pedalboard. Thankfully, my pedalboard was the only piece of gear which had an Apple AirTag in it. So I was able to then follow that around my hometown while I was away, watching pretty much everywhere it went. And the police were great. The police got straight on it. And miraculously, about a day later, it showed up in a branch of Cash Converters, which is essentially like a pawn shop.
Sure.
Where the guy had sold it to Cash Converters. So thankfully, Cash Converters were very cool about the situation. And I think were kind of suspicious about the story that he gave them as to where he'd come by a fully loaded pedalboard with a couple of rare pedals on it. And very kindly gave it back to my wife while I was still in Los Angeles. So it's testament to the power of AirTags, because if there wasn't an AirTag, that would have absolutely disappeared into the ether. So lesson learned there. Don't leave stuff in your car.
No, especially pedalboards or guitars.
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, it's the first time that it's ever happened to me, and I live in a relatively nice area, so hopefully it's not going to be a frequent occurrence. But part of me wonders whether I've been targeted because people have seen me putting stuff in the car at some point. I don't know.
Of course, probably.
Your mind runs riot at that point. But either way, whatever the scenario, whatever the actual situation there, lesson learned. But in regards to the third record, in regards to the direction it's going to take, honestly, we don't know. We have a couple of ideas, but until you actually start getting into a room and writing these tracks as a band, it's hard to legislate for what it may sound like. I think we all have our influences, and obviously the music. I'm pulling my microphone stand over. The music that you're listening to at any one moment will obviously dictate how the music that you're going to make to a degree. But me and Tom have been writing in isolation, and I think the next port of call, which we would probably be doing now if it wasn't for his tour, to be honest, is getting into a room and starting to work through those tracks and actually turn them into full band Cardinal Black tracks, with a view of then recording in June. So we need to get a bit of a move on, because as soon as we get back from this European tour, I'm doing another European tour then on my own, for a kind of clinic tour around guitar solos for the launch of the Revstar. So it's a busy couple of months coming up. So we need to pull our fingers out. But I think actually having confirmed dates in the studio will help light a little bit of a fire.
Finisce qui questa puntata di Note Sparse, la quarta. Vi ricordo che la trovate come tutte le altre su Spotify. Se non le avete già ascoltate le potete recuperare anche lì. Non tarderemo molto a pubblicare la prossima, ve lo prometto.